Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle.
Yes, sir.
You know, we all...
Inappropriate.
That's appropriate.
Right?
It's a big military show this
Very
minute. So anyway, look at everybody enjoys healthy rivalries, and emphasis on the word healthy. Maybe it's your high school teams or your colleges, professional sports teams, maybe even teams like AFC Richmond and Crystal Palace FC. Little shout out to our Ted Lasso fans. Okay. But I would say anyone who has been a member of the armed forces, I know specifically for here in the United States and abroad, there are rivalries. And, and we've been talking about the music, which we're going to have more of today because it's featured so prominently in this minute. But the music and the rivalries between the different branches of service, there is always a moment I always think of from a movie whenever I think of this. And that movie is 1983's The Right Stuff. There is a scene in that movie, and I think we probably mentioned this in season 2. The Right Stuff's a great Tom Wolfe's novel turned into a movie back in the 80s. It's now a National Geographic miniseries. But the original 83 movie is just fantastic. Amazing cast. There is a moment in that movie where the astronauts, in their preparation for being selected, have to go through a variety of insane medical procedures. And one of those procedures is that they have to produce a certain specimen of themselves to present for analysis. And Gordon Cooper, who's played by Dennis Quaid, he has been given it. He's not looking forward to going to the bathroom and having to provide the specimen. But when he goes in there, he knows that Alan Shepard, who is played by Scott Glenn, is already in one of the bathroom stalls. And as he prepares to get himself ready to produce the specimen, they partake in a hum off of their respective branches of services theme song. So it's him trying to sing the Air Force theme versus the Marine Corps theme. And it always just makes me laugh so much because it's totally ridiculous. It's a nice little tribute. And I think anyone who's been in the armed services, and we thank everyone for their service, of course, they kind of get a chuckle out of that because they know they rib each other. I mean, like, this is all part of that. It always just makes me think of this. I thought about it when I was watching this minute. Oh, I can't wait to talk about the details in this. It's amazing.
I remember one of my favorite rivalries that we've seen on screen was actually from A Few Good Men, because in that you have Marines who are, as they say, very serious about being Marines, and so they down there, and Tom Cruise and his group are from the Navy. And so they're coming down to visit. And so, as Lieutenant Kendrick says, no, I like all you Navy boys. Every time we've got to go someplace and fight, you fellas always give us a ride.
Right.
And as I worked with a guy who is Army. This was his first civilian job, so he had just off it too, and he had very strong feelings about all the other branches that he was not in because he was infantry. So he was as Army as you can be, and so he had a lot of things to tell me about what he thought of the Air Force and the Navy and the Marines, which I will not repeat because I am not a member of any of them. So
same here, exactly right. We have nothing but
they are
respect.
It's like nobody punches my brother but me. It's that same kind of thing. Like I don't get involved in between, but it's very, very funny to hear how they talk about each other.
Which, by the way, note, have we done the intro? Have we done the intro for this minute?
Not yet. No.
Oh, please go ahead.
Because here we are
we'll
at minute 95 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, director Jon Favreau, and we're talking about the branches of the military. So go on.
And wait, okay, so as we get into this, we just left off the last minute. He was just about, Justin Hammer was just introducing the naval drones. And here's what I want to say. One of the other neat things about this segment is the 4 main branches that are portrayed here, which, by the way, 1 is missing. If the movie was made today, 2 would be missing.
Right.
And I don't know what we would have done for Space Force. I don't know. And the other one is obviously the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that the 4 are equally presented. They're presented with it's unified. They've got the great graphics. They've got an amazing set of drones, and they've got wonderful music. I love the unity of it, how it's being presented. That's another thing I just really love about this segment. And as we get into now the Navy, I mean,
Mhm.
seeing the difference between the drones, the art direction and the creative design, bravo, man.
Yeah.
This is just awesome.
I believe this is Ryan Mennerling from the concept department had a lot to do with this, because in the commentary he's singled out because one of his innovations for all these drones is their design of the heads, because that they said the heads was the most important part of it, because the rest of it is just like it's just another suit, but heads, because they had to make sure they didn't look like battle droids.
Right.
They specifically said they didn't want them to look like Star Wars, the battle droids, like, because like with that kind of, you know, peaked head or whatever, so they had to have a different design that would not make you think of that, because they had to be their own thing. So he, like, apparently that was one of his designs that came through that. So as we're picking up where we left off in the middle of Hammer's presentation, he had just introed the Navy, but as it's going now, as they're rising up on the floor, we hear Anchors Aweigh. So Anchors Aweigh is the fight song of the United States Naval Academy and unofficial march song of the United States Navy. It's not actually the official name. It was composed in 1906 by Charles A. Zimmerman with lyrics by Alfred Hart Miles. When he composed Anchors Aweigh, Zimmerman was a lieutenant and had been a bandmaster of the United States Naval Academy Band since 1887, and Miles was a midshipman first class in the class of 1907. He asked Zimmerman to assist him in composing a song for that class to be used as a football march, and it just took off. So the phrase Anchors Aweigh is a report that anchors are clear of the sea bottom, and therefore the ship is officially underway. So it's Aweigh, A-W-E-I-G-H, not away. So it's away. So let's see. So I have a little bit of the lyrics here. So these are the revised lyrics from 1997 by the Master Chief. By Master Chief, Petty Officer of the Navy, John Hagan, U.S. Navy, retired, which is still used today. Anchors aweigh, my boy, anchors aweigh. Farewell to foreign shores, we sail at break of day, yay, yay. Through our last night ashore, drink to the foam, until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Aww.
Now, one of the things I do like, if you know anything about America, there is, I love the fact that you've got to have that little drinking song sort of sound to that. If anyone doesn't know this, the Star Spangled Banner, which is the national anthem of the United States, is based on a drinking song. That's why it's so hard to sing, because it's all over the place in terms of its vocal range, right? So
you're saying that we should all sing the anthem while we're drunk?
Well,
that would make some sense. Let's all try it together.
That's why it is that way. Tells you a little something about the good old US of A. So, all right, but as soon as these drones then break, you know, the song's playing, immediately it kicks in. If you know the song, you immediately know what it is. And I love the fact that you see the imagery again behind it. But immediately these are different. I mean, the drones, the color is different. This looks just like the deck or the top of a battleship or an aircraft carrier. Yeah,
and you see on their shoulders, these are like variations of the Polaris missiles.
Yes. So you've got the missile launchers. I think these are Stinger missiles, IM-92 Stinger missiles. Okay. And so they're kind of like the box. And why are they done like this? Because if you're on a boat and you're at sea, you have to protect these from the salt water and the mist and everything that happens. So that's why a lot of these missile launchers look very different on an airplane than they do on a naval ship. So you've got that design element. You've got the colors. You even have the big, bold insignia. These are all marked with 961. This is apparently the Hammer Industries designation as a Model 961 Navy drone. That's where the number comes from. And the Navy, and it's the stenciling. Like, they're painted exactly as you would think what the deck of an aircraft carrier would be painted as. You know, so you've got that nostalgia, you got that connection. It just looks like it's that marine sort of galvanized metal. And I don't know if we've mentioned this, but these are all, I think, covered in, is it Chobham? Chobham is the British, it's a name of a particular composite armor. It was developed in the 1960s for out of British tank research. If you go, and by the way, I'm getting all this stuff from the ironman.fandom.com wiki, which went into incredible detail outlining these. These are all, except for the Air Force ones, which we'll get to, they're covered in this particular armor. But this just looks like something that should be in the water. It just is fantastic design. I love the way this looks. And like you said, the heads, yeah, I mean, they went with a very cool, the way they got away from the battle droid design is that it's got, instead of the sensor that you would normally think would be horizontal to look like a face, no, it's completely vertical. So it immediately gives you a different look than what you would normally think of something.
Almost like a screen of an iPhone. Like, I mean,
Yes.
like that's the, it's like it has one rectangular illuminated box as opposed to any type of face.
Right.
And so it immediately screams robot.
No, these, I tell you what, these just look phenomenal. Just awesome. As soon as you've seen these, you go, well, I remember seeing this movie for the first time, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, wow, they went all in. Like, these are different, and yet they are still based on the same base model of the shells.
Right.
But way to go, design. That's just awesome.
And next up is Air Force. So as the Air Force drones start rising up, we hear the U.S. Air Force, parentheses, into the wild blue yonder. So another interesting story of how this came about. In 1937, Assistant Chief of the Air Corps, Brigadier General Henry H. Arnold, persuaded the Chief of the Air Corps, Major General Oscar Westover, that the Air Corps needed an official song reflecting their unique identity in the same manner as the other military services, and proposed a song competition. And this went on for years, and they could not pick one. But 2 days before the deadline, music instructor Robert Crawford, a rejected World War I Air Service pilot and professional musician, billed as the Flying Baritone, personally delivered a sound recording of his entry, which proved to be a unanimous winner. But what he delivered was a song called Army Air Corps, because that's what it was called at the time in 1939. I think it was when he turned his thing in. During World War II, the service was renamed Army Air Forces due to the change of the main American Army's air arm naming in mid-1941 because of World War II. The song title changed again to agree. So in 1947, when the U.S. Air Force became a separate service, the song was then retitled again, the U.S. Air Force, but the lyrics have remained the same. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of it here, as I think everyone knows the first line, which is, off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come zooming to meet our thunder. At 'em now, give 'em the gun. Down we dive, spouting our flame from under, off with one hell of a roar. And actually, HELLUVA, hell of a. We live in fame or go down in flame. Hey, nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force. Dun 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 dun.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I will just say, not
just because my dad's an Air Force veteran.
Sure, mine too.
I just love. Yeah, we talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
this is my favorite one. I really do. Yeah. If you ever heard a symphonic orchestral version of this, I mean, they're all good. They all pump you up, but I really do like this one a lot.
You know who would not like to hear you say that?
Oh boy. Who?
The Marines.
Well,
and that's what's up next.
Okay, now wait, before we get to the Marines, just to talk about the Air Force.
The design of the
design of the drones.
They're very streamlined as opposed to the other two.
They're stealthy. They're designed, and again, another attention to detail. What would a drone that would spend most of its time in the air need? Stealthiness. It would need, radar resistant composites, angular surfaces. These are equipped with, you can see they've got top firing wrist mounted guided missile launchers. There's a wrist mounted machine gun. There's also a top firing back mounted machine gun. They've got back boosters for improved flight maneuverability and a thermal vision vortex ring gun, which don't ask me to point that out to you where it actually is, but it's in the list. They've got air-to-air missiles. I mean, I love this. Again, they are different, but you can absolutely see the utilitarian reasons why they're different. And you will see more, spoiler for a later minute, we will see these in full-blown action.
Yes.
And it's pretty neat, again, to see how the difference is laid out. And the coloring.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to getting into, to be able to do that as we watch minute by minute to see, those are the Army ones, those are the Navy ones. Because, it goes by so fast in the movie. No, I'm looking forward to getting into that. And
I love that we're taking the time now to give you kind of that preview of all these different things, because these are not just for decoration. You'll see almost every single one of these elements in action over the course of the next several minutes.
Yeah.
Again, can't say enough how much I love this, because it's so well presented and so well realized when we've looked at those when they were crummy and generic looking many, many minutes ago.
Yeah, that's right. So, Rob, do you know who wrote the lyrics to the Marines hymn?
No, I do not.
Neither do the Marines. So the Marines hymn is the official hymn of the United States Marine Corps, introduced by the first director of the USMC band, Francisco Maria Scala. I assume it's Maria. The music originates from an 1867 work by Jacques Offenbach. Yes, that Offenbach. The lyrics were added by someone. No one really knows whether they just showed up one day. Maybe it was the doctor. Authorized by the Commandant of the United States Marine Corps in 1929, it is the oldest official song in the United States Armed Forces. And I think this is the one I think most people would know at least the first verse to, is from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battle in the land, on air and sea. First, to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean, we are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. Hooah.
Very nice. Well, the Marines, and I mean, obviously that's part of the little bit of the, you just heard that land, air, and sea, right? They're a little bit of everything. Like you have Marine pilots. There are Marine, in water and on land. I mean, and as you can see, as the drones come up, they've got a much more sort of guerrilla warfare, hand-to-hand combat, like camouflage pattern. They're the ones that
like
you
Tiger
definitely
Stripe.
feel. Yeah, you definitely feel they would be in close combat with in terms of their design. These again with the same armor. They've got wrist-mounted machine guns, wrist-mounted missile launchers, and high definition cameras, which again would make sense because they're for close combat. And they've also got, I believe, a grenade launcher, an electromagnetic pulse, and they're equipped with electric saw blades.
Ooh.
Which once again,
cut through foliage, right?
Yeah. Among other things, we'll see that later on.
So interestingly, when Justin announces the Marines, he gives a little pelvic thrust there. And for those of you fans of Key and Peele, it's only one pump, just one pump. But yeah, all the ones, those are the ones he gives a little extra English to. So yeah, so he's very pleased with himself after this and after this introduction and the reception that has gotten.
So just a couple of things to note. So we get this beautiful, as the fourth set of drones come out, we get this really beautiful, like straight on wide angle shot. So we see the whole stage lit up. Again, the graphics, the lights, you see all the platforms there. One thing I want to note, which you can see this throughout all the 4 waves of these being shown. Okay, let's just give a kudo out to the CGI artists. Because one of the great things to notice about this is when these come up and the platform stops, there's inertia. There's a little bit of a like if it was a mechanical suit, it kind of gives a little lurch. Okay, way to go. That just sells. Why is that important? It sells the realism, because that's why these look so good. They look like they're really there. And it sells the whole concept of a mechanical humanoid.
Yeah. I mean, and that they're not mounted.
Right.
Like they're not like, they're not like they're not audio animatronics that are welded to the floor like Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, where they have cables coming up through the bottom and they can't move. Like they shift a little bit as they're coming up to show that they're people standing, there are things standing on risers as opposed to mounted onto, steel plates. Well,
and don't forget, remind all of us, these are not robots. These were suits that are mechanically augmented. They were originally designed to augment the user that would be inside them. So you also still would have that kind of motion and flexibility. Just brilliantly done. Brilliantly realized.
Because, Rob, I don't know if you know this, but drone is better.
Well, it can be. It can be. Why didn't you just put the bird? Why isn't the bird in one of these suits?
Oh my gosh, he should.
That'd have been amazing.
So then Justin is continuing on with his presentation. The audience is going crazy.
Yeah,
like you hear them yelling through the whole thing. He says, "Yeah, woo!" He's like, "That's a hell of a lot better than some cheerleaders, let me tell you." And he's like, "Oh, shot at Tony." And you know what? He ain't wrong.
I was just gonna say he's not wrong.
Yeah.
And Pepper, we go to Pepper and Natasha, and Pepper's got the look on her face that you don't want Pepper to be giving you. because
right.
she's not very happy right now.
No. So Justin continues on, but as revolutionary as the technology is, there will always be a need for man to be present in the theater of war. And then as he's talking about this, we cut to a grainy black and white footage, and we see that Ivan is looking out essentially through the eyes of one of the drones. Now, I'm trying to figure out, I think it's from a Marine because of the angle that he's looking. So I think he's from one of those, he's looking out, and so like basically you see the very rough telemetry he sees from inside the drone's POV, and he's, doing the thing that Hollywood has struggled with since the 90s, trying to make typing look interesting.
Well, you do get, and there is no, when you look at the point of view, it is interesting that it's not in full color. It looks like a security camera.
Right. They probably had to use off the shelf stuff,
Right. He's not using anything crazy right here. And that, I think there's a little bit of I think that kind of alludes to maybe Justin, I think there's a reason for that in terms of the tech design, because it's a shoddy sort of view, meaning that Justin at the end of the day didn't really care about the experience of the user.
True.
Like when, you know what I mean? Like, and regardless of what the helmet was going to be or anything like that, he's replaced the helmets now with these drone heads. But I kind of take a little bit of that, like, this shows that we haven't spent a whole lot of money on the actual, visual synthesis. We're spending it a lot more on the weaponry. And then, we get this great shot. We know that it's Ivan's hands because we see the tattoos, and then it cuts to his face. Where
do you think Ivan is at that point? He's in a dark room. Is he there?
I want to say no. I want to say I may or may not know. No, I want to say he's still in Hammer Industries.
You think he's still back in Hammer?
Yeah,
because he's got a lot of distance to travel.
True.
To get there in time, because he's going to be there in 10 minutes.
Right. He may
because at this point we're kind of almost in real time.
Right. But I would assume that he will have some sort of augmented way to get to there.
Okay.
And his computer, because we've seen his hands and we see that shot of him just looking like he's normally dressed, his whole interface is there. Like, I can't imagine he's got a mobile interface to these drones.
Okay.
That's my assumption.
I say I don't have any different. I'm just curious what you thought. Yeah. Then Justin continues on. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am proud to present to you the very first prototype in the Variable Threat Response Battlesuit, or VTRBS, and its pilot. And that's where the minute ends.
Oh!
Like right at that point, right at that word, we don't get to find out who the pilot is, because the minute stops right there after he says the word pilot.
I got to tell you something. I know we've talked about the minute endings they're brilliant in this movie. Kudos. I mean, I know it was the algorithm, but you know what? I don't care because we had so much to talk about. I can't wait to talk about who's ever in this suit that he has.
That's right. And who's wearing the VTRBS?
I am not familiar with the VTRBS.
They just made drones. I don't know where the suit come from.
And knowing Justin Hammer, it may be heavy on the BS and less on the VTR. Jeez. For crying out loud.
But as we're about to see a grand unveiling of an incredible new suit, perhaps you'd like to do some upgrading of your own wardrobe. And you can do so over at our merch store. Yes, that's right. Nextreel has its own merch. So nextreel.com/merch, you can find t-shirts, you can find things to decorate your house, you can find stickers, you can find pillows, you can find mugs, all kinds of things with logos of many of our popular shows on there. Show your love for the Barful We've Been It or one of your other podcasts, and kick a couple ducats over to us. Help us keep the lights on, because bandwidth ain't free, folks.
True.
So we'll be back to find out who the mysterious VTRBS pilot is in minute 96, so you don't want to miss it. Enough said.
Bye.